The medical bay was cold and bright, filled with the soft hum of machines and the sharper sounds of voices that had given up. Dr. Yenna stood before the observation window, her data pad in her hand, her face set in the calm mask she wore when delivering news that no one wanted to hear. Behind the reinforced glass, the creature lay in the corner of its cell. It was a Xylari starweaver. Once, it had been beautiful beyond words. Its scales had shimmered with all the colors of a dying star. Its wings had been wide and strong, delicate membranes that caught the solar winds and carried it through the void between worlds. The xenobiologists said starweavers were among the most magnificent creatures in the galaxy. Now it was dying. The scales were dull, gray like old ash. The wings hung limp at its sides, torn and scarred, the membranes folded like broken paper. It did not move. It lay in the corner with its 6 limbs tucked beneath it, its long neck stretched out on the floor, its chest rising and falling in slow, labored breaths. It had not eaten in weeks. It had not responded to treatment. It had simply stopped. Dr. Yenna looked at her data pad. The numbers were clear. The creature's body was failing. Its heart rate was too slow. Its brain activity was fading. The injuries from its capture had healed poorly, but that was not what was killing it. The creature had given up. She turned to the other medics standing behind her. There were 4 of them, from 3 different species. They had tried everything. Drugs, surgery, nutrient drips. Nothing had worked. The creature cannot be saved, Dr. Yenna said. Her voice was flat, clinical, the voice of a professional delivering a final verdict. Its injuries are too severe. Its will to live is gone. The humane course is euthanasia. The medics nodded. Some looked sad. Some looked relieved. They had done their jobs. There was nothing more to be done. Then a voice came from the back of the room. No. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was a human. He was not tall, not strong-looking. His uniform was standard issue, marked with the insignia of the station's Marine detachment. His hands were rough, scarred, the hands of someone who had done hard work in hard places. His name was Corporal Elias Vance, and he was a combat medic. Dr. Yenna's eyes narrowed. Corporal Vance, this is not your area of expertise. The creature is beyond help. Vance did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He walked past the medics and stopped at the observation window. He looked at the starweaver for a long time. His face was calm, unreadable. You are going to kill it because it is sad, he said quietly. Dr. Yenna blinked. Excuse me. Vance pointed at the creature. It is not dying from its injuries. It is dying because it gave up. You captured it. You locked it in a cage. You poked it with needles and ran tests on it. And somewhere along the way, it decided there was no reason to keep going. He turned to face her. His eyes were tired, but they held a fire that Dr. Yenna had not expected. I have seen this before. In soldiers. Men with wounds that should have killed them, but they kept fighting because they had something to live for. And men with scratches that should have healed, but they let themselves die because they lost hope. He looked back at the starweaver. This creature is not dying from its wounds. It is dying from loneliness. From fear. From being locked in a box and treated like a specimen. Dr. Yenna shook her head. Corporal, you are a combat medic, not a xenobiologist. You do not understand the complexities of. I understand that it is alive, Vance cut in. And I understand that you are about to kill it because you do not know how to reach it. He stepped closer to her. You are going to give me access to its cell. Dr. Yenna stared at him. That is against protocol. The creature is dangerous. It could kill you without effort. Vance smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had seen too much to be afraid of a cage. I have been in rooms with dying men who had nothing left to lose, he said. I have sat beside soldiers with their guts hanging out, screaming for their mothers, and I have learned how to be still. I have learned how to wait. I have learned how to let someone decide if they want to live. He looked at the starweaver again. The creature had not moved. Its sides rose and fell, slow and shallow. Let me try, he said. Dr. Yenna looked at the other medics. They said nothing. She looked at the creature in the cell. It was going to die anyway. What harm could one human do? She sighed. 1 hour, she said. If it attacks, we will not be able to reach you in time. You understand that? Vance nodded. I understand. He walked toward the cell door. The medic stepped back, giving him room. Dr. Yenna watched him go, her datapad clutched to her chest, wondering what she had just agreed to. The door opened. Vance stepped inside. The cell was cold and smelled of sickness. The Starweaver did not look up. Vance walked to the center of the cell and stopped. He did not approach the creature. He did not call to it. He sat down on the cold floor, crossed his legs, and placed his hands on his knees. And he waited. Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna watched the clock. The hour would pass, she told herself. The human would see that there was nothing to be done. And then they would do what they should have done from the start. But as the minutes ticked by, something began to change. The Starweaver's breathing slowed. Not in the way of a dying creature. In the way of a creature that was listening. Its head lifted, just slightly. Its eyes, dull and empty for so long, found the human sitting in the center of the room. And for the first time in weeks, it did not look away. The cell door slid open, and Vance walked in alone. He wore no armor, no weapons, no medical equipment, just his gray uniform and the quiet cam he carried like a shield. Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna watched with her data pad ready. She expected nothing. The creature had attacked every xenobiologist who entered its cell. It had bitten, clawed, lashed out with its torn wings until the medics stopped trying. A human with no training in xenobiology would not last 5 minutes. "You understand that if it attacks, we cannot reach you in time," she said through the intercom. Vance did not look at the glass. "I understand." He walked to the center of the cell and stopped. The Starweaver lay in the far corner. Its 6 limbs were folded beneath it like a dead spider. Its wings lay on the floor, the delicate membranes crumpled and torn, looking more like old rags than the magnificent sails that had once carried it between stars. Its scales were gray, lifeless. Its breathing was so shallow that the sensors on the wall barely registered it. Vance sat down. He crossed his legs, placed his hands on his knees, and let his shoulders relax. He did not look at the creature. He did not call to it. He simply sat, still and quiet, like a stone in a river. The hours passed. The Starweaver did not move. Vance did not move. The only sound in the cell was the soft hum of the air filters and the slow, labored breathing of the dying creature. Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna grew impatient. She checked her data pad again and again. The numbers did not change. The creature was still dying. The human was still sitting. "This is pointless," she muttered. "The creature does not even acknowledge his presence." A junior medic standing beside her spoke up. He was young, a Vorth with bright eyes and a curious mind. "Maybe that is the point," he said. "It has not attacked him. It attacked everyone else who entered. Every time." Dr. Yenna looked at the cell. The creature had not moved. But it had not attacked. That was something. She did not know what, but it was something. She fell silent and watched. Night came. The lights in the cell dimmed automatically, mimicking the day-night cycle of the creature's home world. Vance did not leave. He did not sleep. He sat in the same position, his eyes half closed, his breathing slow and steady. He looked like he could sit there forever. The Starweaver's breathing changed. It was subtle, barely noticeable. But the sensors picked it up. The rhythm shifted, became less labored, more regular. Near dawn, something happened. The Starweaver's head lifted. It was a slow movement, painful to watch. The creature's long neck rose from the floor inch by inch, trembling with effort. Its head turned, and its eyes found the human sitting in the center of the cell. Those eyes had been dull for weeks. Empty. Dead. But now, for the first time since the creature had been brought to the station, there was something in them. Curiosity. Confusion. A flicker of awareness. Vance did not move. He met its gaze and held it. His face was calm, open, unafraid. The creature let out a sound. It was low and thin, a whine that seemed to come from deep in its chest. It was not a threat. It was not an attack. It was something else. A question. A call. A sound that had not been heard in this cell since the day the creature arrived. Vance's voice came softly, barely a whisper. "I know," he said. "I know you are tired. I know you want to stop. But you are not alone." The Starweaver held his gaze for a long moment. Then its head lowered again, back to the floor. But this time, it did not turn away. Its eyes stayed on the human, watching, waiting. Vance stayed through the next day. He did not approach. He did not push. He sat in the center of the cell, a still point in the creature's empty world, and let it look at him. On the second day, he brought water. He carried a bowl to the center of the cell, set it down, and returned to his spot. He did not call the creature. He did not gesture. He simply sat and waited. Hours passed. The Starweaver watched the bowl. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air. It wanted the water. But it was afraid. Vance waited. Then, slowly, the creature began to move. It dragged itself across the floor, its 6 limbs pushing weakly, its wings scraping against the metal. It took a long time. Minutes stretched into an hour. But eventually, it reached the bowl. It drank. Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna's jaw dropped. She had not seen the creature drink in weeks. It had refused water from every source, every method. Now it was lapping from a simple bowl placed in the center of the floor. Vance watched with a small smile on his face. He did not move. He did not speak. He let the creature drink until it was done. On the 3rd day, he brought food. A paste of nutrients designed for star weavers, thick and rich. He set it beside the water bowl and returned to his spot. The creature did not wait as long this time. It dragged itself to the bowl and ate. Its movements were still slow, still weak, but there was something different in them. Something that had not been there before. Purpose. Vance smiled again. His voice was soft, gentle. "There you go," he whispered. "Easy, buddy. Easy." Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna set down her data pad. She did not need it anymore. The numbers did not matter. The tests did not matter. The human was doing something she could not explain. And for the first time since the creature arrived, she thought it might live. A week passed. Vance spent every day in the cell. He arrived in the morning with water and food, and he did not leave until the lights dimmed at night. He talked to the Star Weaver in low, steady tones, his voice a constant presence in the quiet room. He told it about Earth, about the blue oceans and the green forests, about the mountains that touched the sky and the deserts that stretched farther than a man could walk. He told it about the dogs he had as a child, creatures with teeth and claws that slept on his bed and followed him everywhere. He did not know if the Star Weaver understood his words, but he knew it understood his voice. The tone, the rhythm, the steadiness of it. The creature listened. And slowly, it began to change. Its scales, once dull gray, began to show hints of color. Faint at first, like light through clouds. Then deeper, richer. Patches of blue and green appeared on its neck and shoulders, shimmering when it moved. Its breathing became deeper, steadier. The labored gasps that had filled the cell for weeks grew quieter, replaced by a slow, even rhythm. The creature moved more. It explored its cell, dragging itself from corner to corner, testing its limbs. Its 6 legs, weak from months of disuse, began to hold its weight. It stood for the first time on the 7th day, swaying unsteadily, its wings folded tight against its body. It did not fall, but the wings remained a problem. The membranes were healing, but poorly. The scars were thick and stiff, pulling at the delicate tissue. The creature could not stretch them. It could not test them. And without movement, they would never fully heal. On the 8th day, Vance did something new. He stood up. Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna tensed. She had been watching every day, her data pad forgotten, her clinical detachment replaced by something she did not have a name for. She had seen the creature change. She had seen it eat, drink, move. But she had also seen what it did to people who got too close. "What is he doing?" she whispered. Vance took a step toward the Star Weaver. Then another. He moved slowly, his hands at his sides, his palms open and visible. His posture was relaxed, his shoulders loose. He made himself small, non-threatening. The Star Weaver watched him. Its body went still. Its eyes tracked his approach, wide and alert. But it did not pull away. It did not hiss. It did not strike. Vance stopped 3 meters away. He knelt down slowly, bringing his face level with the creature's. His eyes met its eyes. He did not look away. "I need to look at your wings," he said. His voice was soft, the same voice he used when he talked about Earth and dogs and home. "Can I come closer?" The Star Weaver did not move. It watched him with eyes that were no longer dull. There was intelligence there, and fear, and something else. Something that looked like hope. Vance waited. He did not push. He did not reach out. He simply knelt there, 3 meters away, and let the creature decide. Minutes passed. Dr. Yenna held her breath. Then the Star Weaver lowered its head. It was a small movement. A slight dip of its long neck, bringing its eyes below Vance's. In the language of predators, it was a gesture of trust. A showing of vulnerability. An invitation. Vance moved forward. He did not rush. He crawled on his knees, slow and steady, until he was close enough to touch. He reached out his hand, palm up, fingers loose. He let the creature see it coming. His fingers touched the edge of its wing. The membrane was thin and warm beneath his hand. Scarred, yes. Stiff, yes. But alive. Beneath the scars, he could feel the healthy tissue, waiting to heal. The Starweaver flinched. A tremor ran through its body, a memory of pain. But it did not pull away. "Easy," Vance whispered. "Easy, buddy." He let his hand rest there, not moving, not pressing. Just touching. Just being present. He waited until the tremor stopped. He waited until the creature's breathing steadied. Then he began to examine the wing. He worked slowly, with gentle hands. He traced the edges of the scars, feeling how they pulled at the membrane. He checked the joints, the bones, the muscles beneath. He found places where the tissue had healed wrong, where the scars had formed too thick, where the wing would not fold or stretch the way it should. The damage was bad. But it was not hopeless. He looked at the Starweaver's face. Its eyes were on him, watching, waiting. There was fear there, but there was also trust. Trust he had earned with 7 days of stillness. Trust he would not break. "I am going to help you," he said. "But you have to let me." "Okay." The creature made a sound. It was not the thin whine of the first days. It was something new. A low hum, deep and resonant, almost musical. It vibrated through the cell, through the floor, through Vance's chest. Agreement. Vance smiled. He reached for the soft cloth he had brought with him, soaked in a gentle cleaning solution. He began to clean the wing, wiping away the dried fluids and dead tissue, working the solution into the scars. The Starweaver lay still. Its head rested on its limbs. Its eyes half closed. Its body relaxed for the first time since it had been captured. It was not fighting. It was not hiding. It was simply letting someone help. Vance worked for an hour, cleaning both wings with patient, gentle hands. When he was done, he sat back and looked at the creature. "There," he said. "That is better." The Starweaver let out another hum. Louder this time. Stronger. Behind the glass, Dr. Yenna sat in silence. Her data pad lay forgotten in her lap. Her hands were folded, her eyes fixed on the scene before her. She had said the creature could not be saved. She had been wrong. It was not her medicine that was failing. It was her approach. She had treated the Starweaver like a specimen, a collection of injuries to be catalogued and treated. The human had treated it like a living thing, like a soldier who needed to be reminded why he was fighting. She watched Vance sit beside the creature, his hand resting on its neck, both of them quiet and still. And for the first time, she understood what he had done. He had reached out a hand, and the creature had taken it. Word spread through the station like a slow fire. The human medic was in the Starweaver's cell again. He had been there every day for 2 weeks. He talked to it. He cleaned its wounds. He fed it by hand. And the creature, the same creature that had attacked every xenobiologist who entered its cell, let him. It even made sounds when he arrived. Soft hums that the scientists had never heard before. Not everyone was happy about it. The news reached the Federation Xenobiology Council within days. They sent a delegation. At its head was a Xylari named Dr. Thalen. He was tall and thin, with pale skin and eyes that looked like chips of ice. He had studied Starweavers for decades. He had written the books that every xenobiologist used. He knew more about the creatures than anyone alive. He also believed that Corporal Vance was a fool. Thalen arrived at the observation deck with his delegation behind him. He stood at the window and watched Vance sit beside the Starweaver, reading aloud from a data pad. The creature's head rested near the human's knee. Its eyes were half closed. Its wings, once torn and limp, were folded neatly at its sides. "This is sentimental nonsense," Thalen said. His voice was sharp, cutting. "The creature is not a pet. It is a wild animal. You are delaying the inevitable." Vance looked up at the window. He could not hear the words, but he could see the disdain on the Xylari's face. He did not react. He simply went back to reading. Later, in the conference room, the debate began. Thalen stood at the head of the table. His delegation sat behind him, data pads ready, nodding at his words. Dr. Yenna sat at the far end, her face carefully blank. Vance stood by the door, still in his uniform, his hands folded behind his back. Thalen laid out his case with cold precision. The Starweaver's injuries were too severe. The wings had been damaged beyond full recovery. The creature could never be released into the wild. It could not be kept in captivity forever. It would live a half-life, trapped and broken. The only humane option was euthanasia. He spoke for 20 minutes. When he finished, he looked at Vance. "Do you have anything to say, Corporal?" Vance stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "You are wrong." Thalen's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." "Its wings are healing," Vance said. Slowly, but they are healing. The scars are softening. The membranes are growing stronger. It eats. It drinks. It responds to my voice. It wants to live. Thalen let out a sound that might have been a laugh. You are projecting human emotions onto a non-human creature. It does not want anything. It is a biological machine. It responds to stimuli. Nothing more. Vance did not back down. Then why did it stop eating when you locked it in a cage? Why did it start eating again when someone sat with it? Why did it attack every xenobiologist who entered its cell but let me touch its wings? He leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. Because it is not a machine. It is alive. And it was dying of loneliness. The room went silent. Dr. Yenna looked down at her hands. She knew Vance was right. She had seen the footage from the cell. She had watched the creature change. It was not a collection of injuries anymore. It was a being. A living thing that had chosen to trust. Thalen shook his head slowly. His voice was cold. This is not science. This is sentiment. You are letting your emotions cloud your judgment, Corporal. I am recommending immediate. You do not have the authority. The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned. General Kor stood there, his arms crossed, his scales catching the light. He had been watching the debate from the back, silent until now. The creature is under my command, Kor said. He walked into the room, his boots heavy on the floor. And I say Corporal Vance continues his work. Thalen straightened up, his pale skin flushed with color. General, this is a matter for the Xenobiology Council. Your authority does not extend to. This is a matter for this station, Kor cut in. His voice was low, but it carried the weight of command. The creature is here. My people are here. And your science has done nothing but tell us to kill it. He pointed toward the medical bay. That human has kept it alive. He has done what none of your experts could do. He sat with it when it was dying. He gave it a reason to live. And you come here and tell me that is wrong. Thalen opened his mouth to speak, but Kor raised a hand. This is a creature that every expert said would die, Kor said. It is still alive. That is more than your science accomplished. He turned to Vance. Keep going, Corporal. Prove them wrong. Vance nodded. He did not smile. He did not gloat. He simply turned and walked out of the room, down the hallway, toward the cell where a creature that was supposed to be dead was waiting for him. Dr. Yenna watched him go. She thought about the first day, when she had stood before the cell and said the creature could not be saved. She had been so certain, so sure of her numbers, her tests, her science. She had been wrong. And the human, the combat medic with no training in xenobiology, had known something she did not. He had known that sometimes the only thing a dying creature needs is someone to sit beside it. Someone to remind it that it is not alone. 3 months passed. Vance spent every day with the Star Weaver. He named her Myra, after a star his mother used to point out in the night sky when he was a child. He did not know why he chose that name. It just felt right. Myra's wings healed. The scars remained, pale lines across the delicate membranes, but the tissue grew strong again. She learned to stretch her wings, to catch the air currents that flowed through her cell, to hover for moments at a time. Each day she grew stronger. Each day she moved more, explored more, lived more. She also learned to trust. She followed Vance through the cell, her 6 limbs moving in rhythm with his 2 feet. She let him examine her wings without flinching, let him clean the scars, let him touch her face. And every morning, when the cell door opened and Vance walked in, she made a sound. A low hum that vibrated through the room, warm and welcoming. The xenobiologists had never heard anything like it. They called it the greeting song. Thalen left the station a month earlier. His delegation packed up their equipment and filed their reports. Thalen's final report to the council was brief. Further study required, it said. But everyone knew what had happened. A human had done what the experts could not. He had reached a creature that had given up on life. He had reminded it what living felt like. Now it was time to let it go. The day of Myra's release arrived. A shuttle waited in the station's cargo bay, its doors open to the void. The plan was simple. They would take Myra to the edge of the system, where the solar winds were strong, and let her go. She would catch the currents and fly free, back to the space between stars where her kind belonged. Vance stood with her in the cargo bay. His hand rested on her side, feeling her heart beat beneath his palm. Steady and strong. So different from the weak, faltering rhythm of the first days. Dr. Yenna watched from the observation deck above. She had come to say goodbye. She stood at the window, her data pad tucked under her arm, her eyes fixed on the human and the creature below. She activated the intercom. "You did something remarkable," she said. "I did not think it was possible." Vance looked up. He shrugged, a small movement of his shoulders. "I just sat with her," he said. "That is all I did." "You sat with her when everyone else had given up," Yenna said. "That is everything." Vance did not answer. He looked back at Myra. The shuttle doors opened behind them, wide and dark, revealing the stars beyond. The void stretched out, endless and cold, but also full of light, full of freedom. Myra looked at the open doors. Her head turned, her eyes taking in the stars, the darkness, the vastness of the space she had not seen in almost a year. She took a step forward. Then she stopped. She looked back at Vance. Her head lowered, her eyes searching his face. She made a sound, low and soft. Not the greeting song. Something else. Something sad. Vance knelt beside her. He placed his forehead against her scaled snout. Her skin was warm, alive, humming with the energy that had been missing for so long. "Go," he whispered. "Go be what you are." Myra held still for a moment longer. Then she made a sound. A low, sad hum. She pulled back and looked at him one last time. Then she turned and moved toward the open doors. She walked slowly at first, her 6 limbs carrying her across the metal floor. Then faster. Her wings spread wide, catching the light from the cargo bay, shimmering with colors that should not exist. Blue and green and gold, swirling like a nebula, like the star she was named after. She reached the edge. She paused. She looked back once. Vance stood where she had left him, his hand at his side, his face calm. He did not wave. He did not call out. He simply watched. Then Myra leaped. She fell for a moment, weightless, her wings folded against her body. The stars spun around her, cold and distant. Then the solar winds caught her. Her wings snapped open, wide and strong, and the light caught them. She rose. She climbed into the darkness, her body a streak of color against the black, and she kept climbing. Vance watched her go. He watched until she was nothing but a point of light, a star among stars. He watched until even that faded, lost in the vastness of space. Dr. Yenna's voice came through the intercom. Soft now, almost gentle. "She will remember you," she said. "Star weavers have long memories. They do not forget. She will remember the human who did not give up on her." Vance stood at the edge of the cargo bay, looking out at the empty sky. The wind from the open doors tugged at his uniform, cold and thin. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I will remember her too." Later, Vance stood at the observation window on the station's main deck. The stars stretched out before him, endless and full of light. Somewhere out there, Myra was flying. Free. General Kor approached from behind. His footsteps were heavy, deliberate. He stopped beside Vance and stood in silence for a moment. "The Council wants to talk to you," Kor said. "They have questions about your methods. They want to know if other creatures can be saved the same way." Vance did not turn around. His eyes stayed on the stars. "Tell them yes," he said. "Anything can be saved if you are willing to sit with it long enough. Anything can heal if you let it know it is not alone." Kor was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "I will tell them," he said. He turned and walked away, leaving Vance alone with the stars. Vance stood at the window for a long time. His reflection looked back at him, faint against the darkness. His face was calm. His eyes were fixed on the distant point where Myra had disappeared. He smiled, just a little, and he whispered to himself,